Welcome to the Brady Marcs podcast with your host Brady Yashia from Brady Marcs Buyers Advisory. Enjoy discussions with a variety of guests and pioneers from diverse backgrounds, each sharing their unique perspectives on property, business, industry and more.
Let me introduce you to my next guest, Lina De Marco. Lina is a respected accountant and business advisor with a diverse career spanning over 2 decades. Lina's career began as a tax cadet at Coopers & Lybrand back in 1995. She then transitioned to William Buck, exploring different aspects of business consulting. Nearly 19 years ago, Lina made the pivotal decision to embark on her entrepreneurial journey by founding her own practice. Lina has also made significant contributions to the accounting community, serving as the president of the Auditors Institute for almost 5 years. Her leadership and expertise have left a lasting impact on the profession. She's also the president of HERA Women. As a self-managed super fund specialist, Lina's practice assists clients in setting up self-managed super funds to facilitate property purchases within a structured framework. She collaborates closely with various stakeholders such as buyers agents, sales agents, and solicitors. We can't wait to hear her insights and tips on how to leverage and maximise real estate opportunities through superannuation. Welcome, Lina. It's lovely to have you on the podcast.
Thanks, Brady. It's a real pleasure to be here today.
Can you tell us about your journey from starting as a tax cadet to being an entrepreneur?
Well, yes, it's a very long journey. So I did start as a tax cadet in mining in a very large firm. And back then it was, one of the big 6 firms. But I really, I guess I like to have I've always wanted to have an all-round knowledge, and I like to help people in all facets. And I guess that's where I decided that I want to be in a business services firm and basically gather as much information as I can in all aspects of business, in all aspects of tax, in all aspects of compliance. And I just kept going through the years and getting into smaller and smaller firms. And found my place and my passion in grassroots businesses, mum and dad businesses to medium-sized enterprises. And I love to just help guide them and help shape their financial success in whatever they're doing. And so that's where how I started with that passion. I began because I also had a daughter 19 years ago, and at that time the accounting industry, the hours were very long. I mean, we still work long hours, but
yes.
There is more of a work-life balance now than there was back then. And so I wanted to still be able to enjoy my work but also have a family. So that gave me that flexibility and have been doing that ever since.
It's very impressive being a career woman and a mum. What are some of the key differences transitioning from a larger firm to a smaller firm?
For me, it's in a large firm, you tend to really have to specialise. So you might need to specialise in a particular area and then a particular market segment. Whereas what I loved about going into a smaller firm is that you really have your hands in all parts of the pie. So you deal with clients in all stages, across all industries, in all aspects of tax. So for me, that's the biggest difference, is that you move from a niche specialisation to being, an all-round business advisor that, a medium-sized business or a small-sized business can come to you and ask you a range of different questions, and you're not necessarily having to see specialists all the time.
So having that experience certainly sets you apart from the rest.
Absolutely, yes. You do gain a wealth of knowledge in a whole lot of different areas, and you put on different hats, just like business owners, and business owners like to relate to that too, that they know that how they feel being in a small business. You're wearing many hats, so you really do have to be across all aspects of business to be a trusted advisor.
Yeah, that's what it is. So becoming an entrepreneur can be very scary for people. I mean, I remember myself when I was thinking about starting Brady Marcs. That was very daunting. But the most rewarding thing for me was actually taking the plunge, and 6 years later, I would never look back. What are some advice you would give to someone or a business owner that is looking to either start on their own or to join another company, amalgamate? Is there anything that you feel is advice that could give them a little bit more confidence in transitioning into their next move?
I think it would be to cultivate confidence and to back yourself and have that self advocacy. In business, having the mindset that you are competent in what you do, and most of the times you are, but having that mindset enables you to make better decisions, lets you seize opportunities and take particular actions, and perhaps even take some riskier paths. So without that mindset, it's really hard to then progress. And in terms of advocating for yourself, I think it's really important when you're in business to celebrate your achievements and to acknowledge your achievements. And often when you're in business on your own, there's no one to give you a pat on the back. So having that moment to really be proud of what you've achieved and acknowledge that and reward yourself in some sort of way is really important in business, because there are a lot of hurdles and sometimes you feel like there are more challenges than there are achievements, especially when you're starting off. But when you do have those achievements, it's really very important to acknowledge them for yourself.
That's such valuable advice. And the mindset is, I think, one of the most important things with any aspect of doing your job, whether you are working for someone, you work within a team, or you work on your own, because it makes a huge difference.
Absolutely.
And stopping, smelling the roses, looking at your achievements makes a very, very big difference.
Exactly. Yeah. And just thinking, you can do it. And I had a pivotal moment in my career, as I was telling you about, from starting in a large to a small firm. After being on my own for 15 years, I thought, maybe I'm not the best advisor for my clients. Maybe I'm lacking knowledge or lacking some skills. And so I decided to go into a partnership. And it was actually the worst thing that I could have ever done at that point in time. But what it allowed me to realise is that I actually had all the skills. I had all the knowledge. I had everything that I needed, and I should have just backed myself, because I'm back where I am 6 years on from that, doing better than ever without having that little hiccup. Yeah. And it's all about just having that confidence in yourself at that particular point in time.
And sometimes you need to go through that partnership or that scenario to really understand that you're okay. You actually are very good at what you do.
It is a very long-winded way of getting there. So if you can come to that realisation without the pain and heartache and legal issues that go with it, I recommend just backing yourself from the get-go.
Being in business can be like a roller coaster ride. We all know that there's lots of highs and lots of lows. It can be very lonely as a sole owner of a business. In your experience, what do you feel has been the best for you that has helped you pick yourself up when you've been at the bottom of the ride?
I think surrounding yourself with other business owners is very, very helpful. I know that takes a bit of time and a bit of effort to find who your people are and find the right people. But I definitely found that, I guess in my journey, I was feeling a bit of some of that loneliness, and as I mentioned before, that lack of confidence, which then sought me to go into a partnership, which probably wasn't the best situation or scenario for me. But what I had done after that, when I actually got out of that and started the business again on my own, was started going to some networking groups. And not just to sell my product or try and get new clients, but more to just find people that are in business with similar mindset, similar size business, because it's nice to just be able to sometimes have not so much as a mentor, but a sounding board to help you when you are having those struggles, and to help pick you up, because you can talk to your friends, but if they're not in business, they don't really understand. So it's having that level of understanding, and it might not be that you need an answer or a solution to a problem, but just having someone that's there that you can you can speak to about your issue, and get what you need out of them, whether it is support or there is an answer or just been there, done that. I know, let's just start tomorrow, put that aside, refresh your mind. So I think that's really important, is to surround yourself with, doesn't have to be a lot of people, but if you can try and find a few people that you can connect with. And you might find that, for example, at a local business chamber. So going along to local business chambers, you'll find people that are local to you, in business. And it's just about, finding people that you gel with and you can connect with.
Yeah.
So I think that's really important to have that. And obviously, having some good family support is really important. As I said, they may not know the ins and outs of business, but just to be there to support you and to just help you, get your mojo back and get motivated again is, I think, really important.
Yes.
Yeah, I think personally it's also about just having that really deep dive into yourself. You really, as a person in business, you really have to have that motivation and drive. And most people really who are in business do have that. A lot of people say, no, I don't, I'm not motivated, I don't feel motivated today, but they do have that little extra spark because they've made that first step. So it's often about taking a walk, refreshing your mind and just start fresh again today. It's a new day, plan it out and try and overcome whatever that obstacle is.
So networking with like-minded people can often help with just getting advice, sharing ideas, and takes a little bit of the loneliness away.
Yes.
Having the right people around you, like your family, even talking to friends, I think at times can help, even though they might not have the right answers. But the key there is not to isolate yourself and to keep connected.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it's very easy, I think, in business as a sole business operator to, isolate yourself and just really get bogged down with nitty-gritty and not be able to see the light or be able to take a breath.
Yes.
So, yes, absolutely. Don't isolate.
And then when you on the highs, how do you celebrate your wins?
I guess I just like to celebrate with my family and my partner. And I never did that. I really didn't. I just would, click over the next day. Yes, tick, done. I'd have a to-do list. I'm a very list-oriented person, so tick, tick, and move on. But I think I've realised as I've gotten older that those achievements are harder to come by and that I work a lot harder and juggle a lot more than I did 20 years ago to achieve those. So I think as I've gotten older, I just have an appreciation for time and just an appreciation for celebrating. And, I like my champagne and I like to pop a bottle when there's something that I've achieved and I want to celebrate. So that's what I do.
Yeah, you have to celebrate the successes. And being grateful, gratitude is another thing that a lot of people find very helpful when stopping to realise that life isn't all about going at that fast pace, but just to sort of take a little bit of a breather.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with you there. And it's often when you are in that rat race of, trying to meet the next deadline, it's very easy to forget that. So I think having a few minutes part of your day, even a minute, just to might be the start of the day or the end of the day, to just have a bit of mindfulness and be thankful because, despite the difficulty we might be having, we are living in a country that we're very lucky, economically relatively stable. We're not at war. There is tremendous amount to be thankful for. And so keep it in perspective.
Absolutely right.
Yep.
So your early experience of purchasing property at the age of 20 is remarkable.
Thank you.
Can you please share with the listeners your story, how it all came together?
Sure. Well, look, I come from a migrant family who worked hard and saved hard and, sacrificed along the way and, bricks and mortar is their legacy. So I guess those values just were intrinsically inherited from them, as I was a hard worker at school, and, in terms of most people went and did uni full time, had a great life, but I started working full time and did uni at night time. So I guess I've always had that hardworking element to me. And because I was able to start working and I was working full time, I just saved really well. Didn't splash my money around during those early years, and I was able to put together a deposit. And I actually bought a property with my brother, who was only he was actually 4 years younger than me at that time. He had left school a bit earlier and had also been working. So together we were able to purchase our first investment property, and then we went on from there.
That's so impressive. Do you still have the property?
No, I did sell it. I actually sold it back to my brother, so my brother still owns it. I then bought, I needed to buy my home, I got married, and then used the equity in that property to then buy a bigger home and,
But it was
and
a
move on.
good stepping stone.
Absolutely. I would not have been able to have purchased my home where I was going to live in at that price and the location that I wanted if I didn't have that stepping stone. So absolutely not.
So hard work pays off.
Yes, it does. Hard work and save.
Even at a young age.
Yes.
So if somebody's looking to buy their first property, doesn't matter what age they're at, what would your best advice be to them?
I think the advice would be just to get in there. It doesn't matter where it is. From, I guess, my experience in business and with clients, that building of that equity is really very important for financial security and also for financial success. So you find that some clients might start a new business and they need an overdraft. And without having some security to offer, it's very difficult. So it doesn't matter where it is. But from that very first day, that's your worst scenario. People think, oh, I'm so worried about having a loan and having this debt. But the worst case scenario is going to be that very first day. That's where your debt is going to be the highest. But from your first repayment, that debt's dropping.
Yes.
And what else? The other thing that's happening is the property's going up. So the equity's building. So for me, I just think try not to think about it too much and just get in there. Because the sooner you get in there, the sooner you're paying it off. You're making better use of your money because you're budgeting and you don't have all this spare cash flow that you're just throwing around. And as time moves on, the equity in that property grows and the value grows a lot faster than what your savings probably would do.
So it's best to get started as soon as possible.
Yes.
When someone's looking to buy an investment property, whether it be within their super fund or not in their super fund, at what point should they be engaging with a financial planner?
I think it doesn't have to be just a financial planner. So it could be, a tax accountant or a planner, but definitely as early on as possible. Because it's important, part of the process, there's different stages. So it might be that we need to do a bit of forecasting or a bit of budgeting and just be able to work out, what the deposit they've got or what their borrowing capacity is. So there's a few preliminary things that need to be done that helps determine, well, I can go shopping, but what is my price point? What can I afford? So as early as possible initially to just do the preliminary figures and budgeting and forecasting. And then it's at touch points. So it might be when they're about to put a deposit and then definitely after settlement because there's things that we need to do, documents we need to keep, and it's often easier to get it all at that point while it's all fresh in everyone's mind, and then obviously at the end of financial year. So there are various touch points through that process, but I think it's important to note that it's not just about having an accountant or an advisor. Is when you're buying property, you actually need a team of people that you rely on and that are good at what they do, starting from a buyer's agent to your accountant, to a conveyancer and solicitor, to a finance broker. So you want a team that's all working for you, with you. They can communicate cohesively together because that property process involves communication through all of those different people at different aspects of that process. So building your team of trusted advisors is very important, and doing that early on and making everyone aware of who the parties are to that particular transaction will make life easier for you as a buyer, and it will make the process a lot smoother for everyone.
Absolutely agree. We always ask our clients if they have the right professionals around them. It makes the process so much easier and there's no issues that come up that surprise you? Tax planning is a crucial part of property investment. What are the key tax implications that need to be understood?
So with, when you've got a rental property, it's really important that you have a bit more knowledge on terms of record keeping, because there is some compliance aspects that is a bit more cumbersome than just, when you're just working and you just give your account your work-related expenses. So it's important that you have some education in terms of record keeping during the year, so that you don't get to the end of the financial year and you're a big flopping mess and you're just scrambling for information. It's always good to have a managing agent. And getting them to do all of the, the paying of the bills, because at the end of the year you get a nice little annual statement you can then give to your accountant, which, saves you a lot of time in record keeping, and it's much easier for the accountant, so it's saving you money with getting a managing agent to do all that for you, someone that you can trust and who's looking after the property and looking after the financial side of things. The other aspect of it is the negative gearing aspect of it. So most people who buy an investment property, it'll be negative geared. And as a result of that, there are some other things that we can do, such as a PAYG variation, which means that we can sort of maximise our cash flow during the year and help pay off that loan a bit faster. So what that involves is almost estimating to the ATO that we have, we have a rental investment, we have a negatively geared property, and we're going to be due for a tax refund at the end of the year. So rather than getting your refund at the end of the year, we will basically get our cash refund in our weekly wages, right? So your employer takes out less tax. And what that means is that extra $50 can actually go towards your loan and help to, reduce the interest that you're paying, and help you to pay off that loan a lot faster and maximise that cash flow rather than getting it in a lump sum at the end of the year. And quite often it's, usually 12 months after the financial year that you actually get around to doing all of that. So the ATO is holding on to these funds for you when you can actually be utilising those funds better for your own benefit.
Wow. So much valuable information there. So the key takeaways are to have a really good property manager.
Yes.
Make sure you've got a good tax advisor that can help you with the negative gearing.
Yes.
And most importantly, take the plunge.
Yes, exactly.
Yes. We help a lot of buyers buy properties in their self-managed super funds. We have had some great experience with our clients. However, I'm sure it comes with some pitfalls as well. So what are the benefits and pitfalls of buying a property in a self-managed super fund?
I think the biggest benefit with buying a property in a self-managed super fund, in terms of, why clients come to me, is that having a self-managed super fund, especially if they're borrowing, it creates another borrowing capacity. So a lot of clients may already have an investment property outside super. They might have a couple. But based on your salary, you get to a point where you just can't borrow anymore until you reduce some of those loans. So by utilising your superannuation in a self-managed super fund and using the power of leveraging, the self-managed super fund, being its own independent legal entity, can borrow. So you just create this new borrowing capacity, which allows you to then build your portfolio again.
So that's completely separate to your personal debts that you have and your personal situation.
Correct. So that's one of the big advantages. Obviously, having a self-managed super fund gives you a lot of control over your super, a lot of choice, a lot of flexibility, a lot more than having an industry fund does. But I think the main driver of getting into property in a self-managed super fund is to utilise that additional borrowing capacity. There are a lot of other advantages of a self-managed super fund, but that would be probably the biggest one that really allows people to really build that property portfolio for them. The pitfalls about having a self-managed super fund is that it's not just a set and forget like an industry fund. You need to have some advisors, you need to have a good accountant or a financial planner that can just help you through that education process in the first couple of years, because there's a bit more record keeping that is required. But I guess it's like the very first year of doing your tax return. You don't know what you're doing that first year, but once you're taught, you know what you need to keep for the following year. So it's that sort of, I guess, that concept in that you need to be educated and take a little bit more interest in what's happening. And the ATO also expects you have a little bit more of a knowledge of what's happening in your fund, and that's why you rely on your advisor to have those discussions and those conversations so you meet your obligations as a trustee of your own super.
So it's very important to have the right advisor.
Yes.
And they know what they're doing.
Yes, it is. It's look, it is a sophisticated structure, but there's no reason why it's not readily available to anyone that has a decent balance to be able to start a self-managed super fund. So with that advice and with that holding your hand through that process, there's no reason why the average person can't have a self-managed super fund with an additional property in there.
So for the listeners out there, if they're thinking about getting started in setting out a self-managed super fund, are there any guidelines specifically that you think will help them understand how to get started?
Yeah, absolutely. If you have a look on the ASIC website and also on the ATO website, there's a lot of information around setting up a self-managed super fund, making sure that you go to an advisor who has a license, so they must have a financial services license, just to make sure that you're getting the advice from the right people. No one should actually be setting up your fund unless they have a financial services license. So your own accountant, if they don't have a financial services license, 'cause a lot of them don't, won't actually be able to set it up for you. So you do need to find someone who is a specialist in the area or has a financial services license like myself, who can then do the setup. And we often work with a lot of other accounting firms. So I have my own clients, but I work with a lot of other accounting firms who pass on their clients. We evaluate whether it's capable, whether it's in their capability to operate a self-managed super fund, and we do a statement of advice, and then the client then just goes back to their regular accountant. So we take some clients on, we do all the compliance work, and there's others that I just do an advisory role, and I work with other accountants to do that. So definitely ask your accountant the question.
That's very, very interesting to know, because people just assume that all accountants can do that.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the rules changed several years ago, but we used to be able to, but that all changed with the Royal Commission and financial services licensing changes. So you must have a financial services license to be able to advise on superannuation.
Okay, great point. So I know it's a good investment for a client. Obviously, things are limited by budget as well. But for the listeners out there that are embarking on this journey of buying a property in their self-managed super fund, are there specific types of properties that you would suggest that they look at?
Look, it really comes down to a client's investment strategy, and I guess what balance that they have in their super. But generally speaking, when we have newer properties, there are more tax benefits because you can, you depreciate and you have building capital allowance depreciation deductions, which basically what they work in doing is making the super fund negatively geared essentially. So what that means is that rather than paying a 15% tax in your super fund, that's down to zero. So really the newer property give you greater tax benefit, but it's not just, it shouldn't just be tax driven. It's really sitting down and having a look at what your goals are, where you are in your life, how much time you have. Do we want capital growth or do we want just a high yield? So there's a lot of questions and a lot of thought that needs to go into that investment strategy first to then work out, okay, well, yes, I have 30 years or no, I've only got 10 years, and then work back from there as to what the ideal property is. But one of the biggest advantages of having property in super that I didn't mention before that a lot of people go into super for that reason is that when you go into pension phase and you retire and you need to sell a property to fund your retirement,
yes,
and maybe have a lesser investment in something else, or you need cash. Basically, there's no tax, there's no capital gains tax when you sell a property. So that is a huge tax saving as opposed to having a property outside super. So that tax saving is more money for you in retirement. Yeah. So it's a huge benefit, and hopefully that law sticks around.
Yes. It's a fantastic benefit.
It is, that is one of the, I know, driving forces behind a lot of clients that have come to me in terms of thinking, of having that strategy of reducing the capital gains tax in the future, because the reality is in super it is a long-term investment, and usually in the cases that I've seen, they've had the property for 10, 15, 20 years. So significant growth there.
So everyone's scenario is different. It's very important to have a clear strategy and work towards your own goals as opposed to taking any advice. Sorry, I'm just going to ask another question as well before I forget. Is there a cap on how many properties you can buy in your super fund?
No, there isn't. It really depends on how much money you have in there, what you're contributing, your borrowing capabilities, because obviously the super fund also has a borrowing capacity. So it really depends on all those factors. I have clients that have one large commercial property. I have some clients that have a lot of smaller regional properties that might only be $200,000-300,000 each, but it's still providing them with some investment income, and it will still give them funding for their retirement as they sell each one of these properties. So no, there is no cap.
That's great. How do you stay on top of industry trends, especially in the property arena?
A lot of reading. Try and go to a lot of webinars and look at, generally as a tax advisor, we are mandated to undertake certain professional development.
So CPD points?
CPD points, yeah. So we do a lot of, a lot of that training and, something like 120 hours. So it's a lot. So for me, it's more about, logging onto webinars, listening to podcasts like this with property experts, and just being abreast of current affairs generally. With my network of lenders and advocates and buyers agents, everyone's always sharing information, which is great. And, I'll subscribe to newsletters and get, information directly from the source. Sometimes it's different when you listen to things in the media as opposed to what's happening with the people that are at the grassroots level. So it's great to have those conversations and listen to what they have and what their experience day to day. So a gamut of all of those.
So on-the-ground experience really gives you a good insight as to what's going on.
Yes.
So looking ahead, what are your goals for your business and for yourself personally?
Goals for the business is, I'd just like to keep growing the way I am at a pace that still enables us to adequately service our clients. I know a lot of new clients come to me saying that, their accountant takes forever and there's not enough staff. And, sometimes you have to just say no when you get to that point where you've reached that capacity, and you have to make the next decision on where we move.
Yes.
So I'd like to just keep it at a sustainable level where I can do my job, advise, give a good service, give good value, and have a bit of life quality balance for myself.
Is that a thing? Do we actually have that?
Well, yeah, probably not. If you ask the people around me at the moment, I'm working on that. That's my goal for this year, to work on that. But I would also like to, increase my property portfolio this year. So I'm looking at doing that, hopefully, when the opportunity comes along. But actively trying to pursue that. So yes, that's sort of a financial goal and business goal.
Great goals.
Yes.
So how do you switch off at the end of the day?
With great difficulty. Look, we have a busy household, blended family. Look, on a weeknight, it's, try and get some exercise, get out for a walk, and I do like to, watch TV. As a real, kids are in bed, I do just like to have that sort of brain dead almost time just to not think about anything and, watch TV for half an hour. But weekends, I love to get out and about. I love the outdoors. I love to jet ski and I love to be out in the water and hiking. Just enjoying the outdoors, especially in summer, is my favourite thing to do.
Yeah, well, being in nature does revitalise the soul, so I think it's important to...
Absolutely. It just centres you, grounds you for the next week ahead. You just feel calmer and ready to go.
Yeah. ready for the next one.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Along the way, have you had any mentors that have inspired you, or do you still have a mentor?
Look, with my work with the Auditors Institute, there's actually a few founding directors of that board that I would consider my mentors. They've been in practice for a lot longer than me, and I often pick up the phone and ask for their advice. So I really appreciate having them as a sounding board through, my next part of my career.
That's great. Well, you've certainly been an inspiration to our guests today.
Thank you.
After talking to you today, I think you have really empowered women to rethink about their careers. And for those people that thought accounting could be boring, what would your advice be to them about embarking on this journey as their career?
It's definitely never boring. I never have a boring day, especially in a business services firm, in a smaller firm where you have a range of clients, range of industries, range of tasks that they ask you to do every day. So it's never boring. It actually surprises me that when I go to a lot of these CPD events, that number one, there aren't more female practice owners, and secondly, there aren't a lot of younger women or just younger people in general entering the professional aspect of accounting. I'm sure that everyone has their glossy views of working in a big firm, which is fantastic, and I don't in any way discourage that. But there's a lot that happens in a small firm, and you really get your hands on all sorts of different scenarios, and the learning curve is tremendous. But for women in particular, and what I've found is that it is a very flexible working environment and a working life. And now with some of the advantages of COVID, where we are having a lot more remote working arrangements and flexible hybrid arrangements, it's actually a real perfect career choice where, you can have, a really sustainable life in terms of having that family life, and also, a career that you can do very well in. But I just don't see that in some of the events that I go to. And I just wonder, why that is. And I just think that as women who are in business, I think it's our job to promote that it's not as hard. Yes, there are the obstacles like any business, but for mums that want that balance, I think it's actually perfect, a perfect occupation for them.
It sounds like it could really be a game changer for a lot of women.
Absolutely. I mean, to have be financially independent and have a job that gives you a good income and still have a family life and be able to run a business. And I've done it, and it's doable, it's achievable. And I guess the way I operated my business is there were years where the kids needed me more, and I probably wasn't working as much as I maybe would have liked. But you can manage your business and you can manage your client flow to meet those needs.
So you can tailor it to your lifestyle.
Well, that's right. I mean, look, I had a few hard years there where I was switching on the computer at 9 o'clock and working till midnight, but I loved that I'd spent the day at athletics carnival, or at the school barbecue, or helping out at the P&F. So I feel like that I've been able to have my career but not miss out on doing the things that I wanted to do that my mum did for me, all the P&F stuff at school and being there on those special occasions and book week, just by being able to manage my workflow. And I think now with the benefits of what COVID has brought and the changes it's brought to the working environment, I think it's even more suitable for women to go down this path.
You're an amazing advocate for women that are accountants.
Thank you.
So is there anything that you'd like to leave the listeners with to think about, or a question that you think they should reach out to you with?
Sure. I think, as I mentioned, getting into the property market is really important, and I think it's a foundational stepping stone to building your financial security and your financial future. So I think have a conversation, because you think that you might not be able to do it, and you may think that it's too big of a task or too big of an undertaking. But sometimes when we have a conversation and we can do some budgeting and look at some cash flow forecasting, most people realise that it is within their capability. So I think don't be scared. Just have a conversation, reach out, because you're not going to know by staying in the dark.
Yeah, and as I always say, you've got to get uncomfortable to get comfortable.
Absolutely. That's right.
And if the listeners want to get in touch with you, what's the best way?
Probably just an email, or you can just go to our website. My contact details are there. So, email or even a phone call is fine.
Fantastic.
Yep.
Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Brady. It's been really lovely to have a chat, and hopefully we've imparted some knowledge and encouraged some people to get into this property market.
Yes, you certainly have.
Thanks.